Hello again, this is Marxist, and today we'll be going over Badlands mid-fights from Season 15's ESEA LAN Championship Round 2 between Mixup and IT. I'm going to go over each mid-fight in depth, pausing occasionally to explain what's going on. I may draw a little bit, but probably not a whole bunch, and then we'll stick to my mid-fight system as well. I'm going to rigidly stick to that system, pausing to let you know what I think you should do at that point as part of an overall system on mid-fights, and then we'll see if Mix-Up and IT obeys it or they break the rule. Because it's not hard and fast. Nothing in TF2 is unbreakable. So we'll see, and it will help you recognize, hopefully, situations where the rule may not necessarily be true, or the consequences for not following the rules in some cases. So we're going to watch this video from basically over Red's crates. That'll only get confusing at halftime, I promise, but we'll go over it. So then we'll go ahead and get started, stop where we sort of get the opener to mid, and then any other important points that I find. Here we see each team go for essentially a right-sided mid. We'll stop at a good point and we'll talk about where everyone is. So we see we've got a demo, and for IT, we've got a demo on the balcony, a soldier in Lansky coming up the slope, a soldier in RR staying by the clubhouse, both scouts, one going under, one going on top. And then basically all of Mix-Up is in similar positions, except their demo has come with them. Platinum is with them behind the clubhouse. You can't really see any of Mix-Up, except for one scout down in the valley. So we see Lansky jump direct onto his own train car and attempt to block. Both scouts come with him, basically air suspend Seagull, no bomb from him. Or rather, TLR. Seagull goes down on the slope. Now IT has essentially won the mid. They have far superior positioning to Mix-Up. However, Mix-Up has heals, so they're going to try and make this work anyways. Harblue goes down right away. The mid should be over, but Enigma styles on Vanny, Lansky, and Shrugger, all three, and caps the point and wins the mid. Now we'll rewind and talk about some things. So essentially, the moment the mid is decided is right here as Lansky's making his jump onto his own train car, because RR goes hard right. You can see him there by the opening to Mix-Up's house. The problem with where RR is right now is that he is okay. No one's gonna attack him. He's basically unnoticed by IT right now. But what he does next is that he bombs into Mix-Up in the valley. And yeah, he's gonna do damage there. RR's a solid player, his DM's good, he'll hit rockets. But that's the same moment where his scouts are busy shooting TLR out of the sky, and then Seagull bombs and kills his demo and medic. And this going back in some time, there was a team called Pinball Wizards, which comically enough had Lansky on it, and they basically ran a mid where you would pretend like you were going clubhouse and sit in the valley for quite a long time and hope that a member of the other team would drop down into you, and then you would easily kill them because you can see them coming. You've got plenty of space to back up and kite them a little bit so that their initial damage doesn't really do that much, and then you get an easy kill. Then you go up to mid because you've got some kind of a numbers advantage. So basically what determines this mid for IT is that RR bombs in, does decent damage, but his team can't follow up, and at the same moment they're too busy with Seagull's bomb, which is a lot more effective because IT's a lot more spread out. So they can't contest Seagull as much. And things aren't still really all that bad for IT until Enigma wins a 3v1. Now we're going to watch that same mid again, only we're going to talk about sort of my system for mid. So here we see Platinum is the very first death at mid. Generally, under my system, that would be when the mid is just over. Anybody who's still in would suicide for their medic, and I would try to get away. Mix-up ends up making it work anyways, even without their demo, and they're kind of invested as is, so that it would still be pretty hard to get Harblue out. So, and they end up winning the mid mainly off the back of Enigma's 3K at the end, but that's how I would do it. Right here, if I were Mix-up, I'd be outie boom bowdy. You would never see Marxist again at this mid. Now here Indust goes down. IT is also losing the mid despite basically having won it by killing Platinum so early, because they managed to lose 2 frags, which more or less balances the scale. One of them is now the medic. IT's health is also a lot worse than Mix-Up's. So the mission for IT now should be to kill Harblue as soon as possible. They end up going for frags, and they kill basically the whole rest of Mix-Up except Enigma and Harblue, but a 185 Enigma kills the rest of IT. So, in the end, I'll take that as justification for my system. We'll head into the next mid now, the second mid of the match. On this mid, we'll see a bit of a replay of what happened last time with both teams going right side, but a few variations. So what we see here is that Platinum has gone balcony and Harblue is taking the corner wide. That telegraphs to IT that they're going to the clubhouse side. If you're a scout player or a demo, consequently, and you see a demo in Plat's position and a medic that's taking the corner wide, you know you're going to have a right-sided mid. So you should call that. Your team would greatly appreciate it. Now on mix-up side, Zalox has gone house. That pretty much guarantees a left-sided mid from IT. If they don't do a left-sided mid, Zalox is going to die immediately, and it's kind of silly just to let your demo die mid for no reason. So IT has basically telegraphed that. Also, Indus takes that corner a lot tighter, and you can probably see that as a scout. I don't know if Platt can see it for sure, but also Lansky's kind of coming up the slope. So each team has told each other essentially what they're going to do at this mid now. The one thing that you don't see, and I wish I had a little plug-in for, is Seagull saw what RR did the last mid. So he's decided to go choke, so as to kill RR if he decides to chill in front of their house this time. So you see very similar mids developing. RR is in the same place. Seagull tries to counter jump him, but nothing happens. He's now in the house and does manage to get RR very early. Then TLR counterbombs. Zalox goes down to a scout. And there's the mid, basically. Indus does do a really good job of getting out, though. So now we're going to re-watch the mid and do it sort of with my system like the last. So it's here that the first little bit of the rule comes in. IT has lost 2 players relative to the other team mix-up, so it's time for Indus to leave. Ideally, 1 player would leave with Indus, and the other 2 remaining players would suicide Harblue. Indus will charge up Uber, the round will not be lost, Harblue will be dead, mix-up will win mid momentarily, and then you repush and win the mid. Ultimately, IT isn't able to suicide Harblue, but they do manage to get Lansky out with Indust, so they'll still have Uber. The round isn't lost. Basically, the best of a bad situation for IT there. They essentially followed the rule exactly. Now we're going to head on into the third mid of the match. So we'll talk about IT in the red first. Zalox comes left and there's a scout on the Hoodoo, so we've basically telegraphed a left-sided mid from IT. Lansky and Indust are also coming up the slope at a pretty tight angle. You can't really see them right now in this picture. But what happens on mix-up is so strange that I think it's either some kind of wacky land strat or a mistake. So we see Harblue is pushed way out to the right. That means he's probably going to go clubhouse. But what ends up happening is that only a scout and Harblue come through clubhouse. Everyone else goes left as if to run a standard mid. That's why I think there's a bit of a mistake. But we'll see how it plays out. Because you would also do something weird like this if you were under the impression that IT was basing their mids off of an early call. So, say Harblue's out wide, we're going right. Maybe Mix-Up assumed that they were getting some kind of call like that, and so they thought they'd do something weird to mess with IT. That's my only thought, other than that it's either a wacky land strat or a mistake. So we'll see how the rest of this plays out. Lansky jumps hard onto the middle of the point. TLR goes left and then crosses over. Seagull gets killed off by a scout in Banny. And right now the fight's still pretty okay. TLR does this weird thing where he pokes a bunch, and Platt's still in the house basically uncontested, putting damage on people. And frags start to come down, and it looks like Mix-Up has lost, but they managed to get Lansky and Banny under, and a bunch of respawns that come in, so IT has to leave. So now we'll rewatch that mid using the basic system. This fight's really slow developing, and we sort of see the same tactic out of Mix-Up that they've been using this whole match, where they chill by the clubhouse and don't really do a whole lot. The first thing that sort of comes up that would play into the system is Platinum's death here. In general, the team that gives up the third frag at a mid-fight is going to lose. So if I were Harblue in this situation, I would be thinking about backing up. However, a frag comes down for Mix-Up immediately after that makes it a 3v3. So, again, you wouldn't need to really stick to the rule. Here we see Harblue in a position to pull out because it looks like his team has basically lost the mid, but all their respawns from the first two kills that went down are coming back. IT has to leave at that point because if they stay, they might be able to get a significant amount of time on the point, but they'll probably not cap it, and they'll probably end up getting forced or losing their Uber just in general while trying to cap the point, and that's not necessarily a fight you want to have, particularly given that Shrugger has just died and it has a 22-second respawn, so he basically won't participate in that fight on mid, and that's not a situation you really want to be in when you're facing a potential 3v4. And now we'll move on to the fourth mid of the match. Here again we see really mixed signals from Mix-Up. Platt's first sticky comes out of the house, which generally means left-sided mid, but Harblue takes the corner really hard. So IT can't really say for certain which way things are going to go. They know Harblue is going to go right, but if all they saw was that demo sticky, then they would assume left. IT is showing sort of a mixed mid here, where their demo's on balcony, and Lansky's going to jump straight onto the center of the point. And either that's their strat, or they are, you can see that the mixed signals Mix-Up is sending is causing them to sort of choose a mid that's sort of like halfway in between left and right. We see the rest of the mid play out. Lansky crosses onto his train car. RR's over on the right. He gets thrown around a bit by Seagull, but things are still pretty much going down. TLR falls to the ground. RR gets some kills. Harblue goes down, and ultimately Mix-Up is essentially going to wipe. Enigma here does a really good thing and going for the med. You can tell he's straight going for the med here, but he doesn't get it. So now we'll watch that mid again, but we'll pay special attention to how my rough sort of mid-fight system would deal with it. So this mid's really slow developing, but once Mix-Up gives up its second pick, they still haven't yet gotten a kill. They get it immediately after. But you can see as soon as that second kill goes down, and Mix-Up doesn't have any frags yet, you can see Harblue just whip right around. He's ready to leave. Unfortunately, he dies down there almost immediately after. So obeying the rule didn't really save him any. And Mix Up at that point is forced to suicide Endust, if at all able to. Which Enigma ultimately being the last player shows quite clearly. So now we'll head into the fifth mid of the match, and also the last mid that we'll go over in this video. Here we see pretty clearly each team telegraphing that they're going to go to their own left, their own train car. Basically everything suggests that, from the way the medics are going up the slope to the relatively more conservative positions of the demo, either going house or window in both cases. Then as the mid plays out, we have a really early bomb from Seagull that kind of disorients IT a little bit, but it allows Mix-Up to get up. Shrugger and Zalox both go down. Enigma and Harblue go down, so now we've got to suicide Indust. You can see them all close in on him, and that basically ends IT's mid, and they'll get Banny as well. So now we'll watch that mid using my sort of loose mid system. So following the system here, IT is 2 down, it's time for Indust to leave. So of note here are two different things. In Indust's case, you can see him playing a bit more passively than he was, so he was already sort of following that line of thinking. However, they get 2 quick kills, one of which is the medic. So on IT's side, the only thing you can do now is attempt to keep Indust alive by encircling him, because the mid is now equal, he shouldn't just run away a second. So you need to try and gather around Indust as much as possible to prevent him dying. He's also in a more passive position, so it should be pretty easy to get to him without being blocked. However, on Mix-Up side, Harblue just went down, so Mix-Up must suicide Indust. And, as we see, IT attempts to gather around Indust, but it's not enough. Mix-Up ends up getting him and wiping them. And since we're getting rather close to the 20-minute mark, I don't want to make a hugely long video, so we'll cut it off here. I may revisit this in the future if you guys like this. I tried to cover mostly generalized team things. I may go back over the same mids again, but with more of a mind to the interplay between the two different scouts, or what roamers do on mid, so I don't really know yet what I want to do per se. I've tried a few different things already, just why this video took so long to get out. At the end of the day, I decided going with generalized team stuff would probably be the better video to make at this point. But let me know what you would like to see, if you'd like to see interplay between scouts, or like how roamers function at mid, or don't function at mid. On the whole, though, I tried to keep it to mainly like team play issues and the medic specifically, as far as positioning goes. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully it was helpful as far as the way things go down at mid. So until next time, this has been Marxist.